Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully this new time of 11:30 worked well for everyone. And I appreciate all of you who did participate in that survey we sent out. We adjusted this time based on the survey responses. A lot of folks said that they really preferred something around the lunchtime, thinking of it as more of a lunch and learn. So let me know how you enjoyed this new time slot that we're doing this today. So today we have a fabulous presentation set up for you with Brent Batchelder. He will be talking about fire management, our natural systems, and public safety. I did want to mention that everyone will be on mute throughout the presentation, but we do hope that you ask questions. And so you can enter those questions into the question box in your control panel there on the right side of your screen. We will have a question and answer section at the end of the presentation. And I hope that you will join us all for our next webinar. It will be about water less, since spring is coming up and everyone might be thinking about what they can do in their landscapes. We want to make sure that everyone is thinking about how they can save water as they are moving forward in their landscapes and in the spring season. So we will also turn off our cameras during the presentation and put them back on for the question and answer section, so we're not distracting in looking around in the pictures. But first, I did want to introduce Brent. He has been at the district for about 3 years, and as a land resource specialist, he is in charge of drafting and updating and coordinating those land management plans for the western and southern properties of the district. These include properties that are in the Ocklawaha Basin, the Orange Creek Basin, the Lake Apopka area, and the Lower St. Johns River Basin. Prescribed fire is a large component of these land management plans. And not only is Brent responsible for the land management plans, but he is also a member of the district's fire team. He has participated on dozens of prescribed burns throughout his career, and he has an extensive knowledge of what the requirements are to plan a burn, as he has been the lead planner for prescribed fire on tens of thousands of acres of conservation area. Without further ado, Brent, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present today. I'm gonna get my camera off here and let's get rolling. So when putting this presentation together, I tried to approach the subject of summarizing the district's fire management program through the eyes of a journalist. As such, through the slideshow, I attempted to answer what are known as the essential 5 W's and 1 H, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And please take note that I'll try to answer those questions, but not necessarily in that order. So fire management, natural systems, and public safety. I'll begin with the what. So let's get a few definitions out of the way. Staff at the St. Johns River Water Management District actively conduct both prescribed fire and wildfire operations. Wildfires, like the one shown, creating hazardous conditions on Interstate 95 in Volusia County, are unplanned fires that burn in natural areas like forests, grasslands, or marshes. These dangerous fires spread quickly and can devastate not only wildlife and natural areas, but also communities. Wildfire management is the action of attempting to prevent wildfire spread, to protect property and save lives. District staff does much to manage and control wildfire, and in the state of Florida, the Florida Forest Service is the lead wildfire management agency. The Florida Forest Service is also responsible for authorizing prescribed burns in the state. Prescribed burns, also known as prescribed fires or controlled burns, like the one shown in the photo on the right at the district's Hal Scott Regional Preserve and Park, refer to the controlled application of fire by a team of fire experts under specific conditions. And in this picture, you can note the well-planned fire spread and smoke management being conducted. This allows the fire managers to burn significant acreage immediately adjacent to the very busy Beachline Expressway. A burn prescription is a document that outlines the conditions necessary for a burn. to meet the desired objectives and to be conducted in the safest manner possible. The specific attributes provided in a prescription include details about the desired weather conditions, ignition techniques, the types of fuels that are present on the site, personnel and equipment needed to conduct a burn safely. District burn managers use science to inform their burn management decisions, and in Florida, certified burn managers are provided protection by law through Florida Statute 590 and Florida Administrative Code 5I-2. That means that when burns are conducted following their prescription, these are within their legal boundaries. The primary focus of this talk will be the Water Management District's prescribed fire program. However, much of the subject matter is equally relevant to wildfire response and public safety activities for which we are responsible. So humans have been managing fire in natural areas of Florida for as long as humans have inhabited the Sunshine State. And let's discuss some of the background on why we manage fire in natural areas. As this map of the continental United States shows, Florida is and has been the lightning strike capital of the United States for eons. And large-scale lightning-ignited fires have swept across the peninsula as a result. And the dominant vegetation has evolved in this fire-shaped landscape. This vegetation is fire adaptive and fire receptive. Under certain conditions, it ignites relatively easily. Therefore, much of the natural landscape in Florida will burn, whether in a wildfire or through a prescribed burn. And it has been shown that managing fires in Florida has many benefits. District burn managers are also land managers. They're well educated and experienced in the natural resource sciences. And we realize that the right type of fire conducted in the right place at the right time helps land managers meet many ecological objectives. These ecological benefits include improving hydrologic conditions, encouraging flower and seed production for a wide range of plants, exposing seed banks and improving germination of desirable native plants, cycling nutrients, and in general, maintaining wildlife habitat for a diverse range of both common and threatened or endangered species, like those shown on this slide. We'll discuss more specifics on the ecological benefits of prescribed burning in later slides, but before we move on, I would like to quickly contrast a fire-maintained forest, like the one shown on the right, to a fire-suppressed forest, like the one shown on the left. Obviously, plant species composition and structure differ greatly between these two areas, and periodic fires help reduce the coverage of broadleaf woody shrub and tree species in these forested upland systems. In turn, this improves the sunlight reaching the ground and allows for the growth of a wide array of grass and wildflower species. So why else do we manage fire? Well, protecting public safety is the other primary reason. In fact, managing for the safety of our neighbors and nearby communities is paramount to our fire management program. The district manages many thousands of acres of fire-adapted natural areas that are immediately adjacent to neighborhoods and roads. Most of our properties are close enough to significant population centers that smoke from fires on our land can impact those areas. These images show a rather stark contrast between the impacts of wildfire and prescribed burns on human development. Firefighters try managing wildfires to minimize or mitigate the impact to health and well-being of adjacent and nearby communities. Sometimes they have to use heavy equipment, aircraft, and risk the lives of wildland firefighters to try controlling wildfires. However, one of the best ways to prevent the unwanted impacts of wildfires is to conduct preemptive prescribed burns. Prescribed burns reduce the fuel available to future wildfires and reduce the likelihood of a wildfire developing in the first place. In certain situations, mechanical or chemical treatments can be used to meet public safety and/or ecological objectives. However, a vast majority of the time, prescribed burning is the most cost-effective option for both fuels reduction and ecological management. So where exactly does district staff conduct fire management activities? Well, the district is lead manager agency on over 430,000 acres of conservation land spread across the 18 counties shown in this map. Our prescribed burning and wildfire management activities are focused on these lands, like the area shown in this image from the Julington-Durbin Preserve. We also work closely with local, state, and federal partners to help fight wildfires and accomplish their resource management goals. Occasionally, support of our partner agencies even take district staff outside of our jurisdictional boundaries. During wildfire season in the western United States, district fire managers periodically participate in wildfire response activities alongside our partners from the Florida Forest Service. That said, let's drill down in more detail on the fire-adapted natural communities closer to home on which district staff manages fire. This pie chart shows a breakdown of the district's conservation land. The striped pie slices, totaling just over 60%, or about 260,000 acres managed by the district, are fire-maintained or PIREC land cover types. Let's look more closely at the two major classes of PIREC systems the district manages: wetlands and upland communities. As a water management agency, the St. Johns River Water Management District takes care of large tracts of wetland habitat. It can come as a surprise to some that many of these wetlands, at least at certain times, burn quite readily. Some marshes and wet prairie systems are receptive to fire on nearly an annual basis. Many wetlands require periodic fire to maintain their plant species composition and structure. In both marshes and cypress wetlands, fire acts to reduce woody shrubs such as Carolina willow, their density and coverage. Helping to retain this, in turn, helps to retain water in these wetlands and promotes more diverse herbaceous plant assemblages. In wetlands that dry out for longer periods, fire also acts to help reduce the buildup of dead plant material, thus improving habitat for many species of fish, invertebrates, and birds. However, under drought conditions, fire can enter wetlands that have long developed and delicate peat soils, leading to long burning muck fires that can kill desirable wetland plants and severely impact the hydrology of these systems. Therefore, district land managers use fire in and around peat soil wetlands during moderate soil conditions in order to reduce fuel loads, thus minimizing the chance of wildfire entering these systems during dry periods. And we see a variety of pictures here of burning in marsh areas in the floodplain of the St. Johns River all the way out to the channel, and freshly burned understory in cypress stand at Lake George Conservation Area, and control of woody shrubs coming into an herbaceous marsh in an upland area. Now, when most people envision a fire-adapted natural community in the southeastern United States, they might have a picture of pine flatwoods or sandhill in their mind. Many of the iconic wildlife and plant species that Floridians value benefit from periodic fire in upland areas. Much like in wetlands, fire in certain uplands helps to reduce mid-story shrub cover. This promotes more diverse ground cover that is so important to many species. Fire exposes bare soil, creating an important seedbed for the quintessential southeastern longleaf pine tree. At the same time, the relatively open canopy and reduced tree density often found in a fire-maintained sandhill, as shown in the middle photo here, helps reduce the loss of water by trees, allowing for the percolation of rainfall into deeper sandy soils and allowing more water to reach the Floridan aquifer. Fire in other upland systems, such as the scrub habitat shown here, helps to maintain scrub oaks in a shrub structure that is preferred by federally threatened Florida scrub jay and creates bare soil habitat for rare and endemic plant species in this habitat. Managing fire in uplands is especially important since high, dry upland ground is where people live. These natural communities have very direct continuity with human development, and any one of these pictures could have been taken from someone's backyard. Who manages fire? The outstanding Bureau of Land Resources staff shown in this image on the bottom left are the district's lead fire managers. Within the Bureau, there are 34 dedicated fire managers and crew members. That's right, 34 staff stretched across 430,000 acres in 18 counties. That keeps us pretty busy. Fortunately, our Bureau is directly supported by a crew of over a dozen district staff from various district bureaus, divisions, and offices. It is also important to mention that administrative support the fire management program receives. District office staff provide invaluable assistance with procurement, planning, and operations. In addition to district staff, our fire management program would not be possible without the many partners that we have. Our coordination with the Florida Forest Service has already been mentioned. We also work closely on fire-related activities with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the Florida Park Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Forest Service, the universities of the state of Florida, local governments, non-governmental organizations, and companies in the private sector. The photo on the bottom right here shows a district burn team members along with partners from the U.S. Forest Service, Flagler County, and our fire contractor. Our partners help us and we help our partners. Casting the net even wider are our neighbors, folks that attend outreach events, and those that inform others regarding the importance of fire management are honorary members of our burn team. When does fire management occur? There are two major components to this answer: the frequency and seasonality. Florida Natural Areas Inventory has identified the typical fire return interval for natural communities in the state. For example, the Natural Areas Inventory has determined mesic flatwoods would naturally burn every 2 to 4 years, while wet prairie habitat would typically burn every 2 to 3 years, and typical scrub should burn every 5 to 20 years. District land managers use this information to help inform burn priority decision making. District's fire management season is practically 12 months out of the year. The specific timing of prescribed burns depends on weather, habitat conditions, and land management objectives. Cool season burns are generally desired in areas with little to no fire history and when trying to minimize tree mortality. Warm season burns are generally provide more dramatic landscape changes and stimulate ground cover. Rainfall and wind conditions also play a large role in the timing of fire management activities. During periods of drought, prescribed burning activities grind to a halt and fire management shifts towards fighting wildfires. This graph shows a month-by-month cumulative burn acres for the district over the past 4+ years. One trend that is obvious in this chart is that much of our burning is completed in the early months of each calendar year. February is typically our most active burn month for several reasons. Frost-cured marsh grasses, moderately inundated wetlands, and optimal prescribed burn weather conditions are all present in winter months, explaining this trend. Cool season burns are necessary on much of the land we manage. It is one of our goals to reduce the backlog of burned acres on our land and have additional acres burned within the growing season. However, at this time, previous land use and a history of fire suppression continues to have a legacy on our ability to conduct growing season burns. Now I'm starting to wrap things up here, and a simple way of assessing the district's fire management accomplishments is to look at the numbers. This graph shows acreage for both wildfires and prescribed burns, as well as the number of prescribed burns on district land for the past 27+ years. Over the course of our program, district fire managers have conducted more than 1,600 burns, totaling nearly 655,000 acres. On average, our fire managers are conducting about 56 burns and across 22,000 acres in any given year. In conclusion, how does the district staff manage fire? St. Johns River Water Management District supports education of team members, utilizes scientific principles, conducts fire management operations, and provides outreach to communities. All of these activities work in concert to support a well-developed wildland fire management program. The #1 goal of district fire managers is to use prescribed burns and to reduce the risk of future wildfires. Successfully employing a prescribed burn program requires an educated and well-trained team of individuals. District fire managers are respected leaders in their field and public servants that undertake significant risk through their service. In addition to receiving their own education, district fire managers also are active members of the interagency fire management community and provide training to other fire management professionals. District fire managers rely on the most well-supported and established biological and natural resource science through all phases of fire management. Fire management is pursued in coordination with a wide array of other water and land resource management objectives and goals. District fire managers rely on the principle of adaptive land management that includes monitoring, assessing, and if necessary, modifying land and fire management prescriptions. To protect the public safety of our neighbors, fire managers develop burn prescriptions, conduct planned burns, and are 100% dedicated to wildfire management. Both specialized equipment and common equipment is used to conduct fire management operations. Partners and district land managers maintain cooperative agreements allowing mutual assistance for prescribed or wildfire operations. And district fire managers provide public outreach opportunities regularly at various events, meetings, and venues. And that includes my presentation on the 5 W's and 1 H of the district's fire management program, natural systems and public safety. Thank you everyone for sharing your time with me today. And I guess we have time, hopefully, for a few questions.
Thank you so much, Brent. So if you don't mind coming back on with your camera, we have a bunch of questions that are coming in. Prescribed fire seems like it's a great topic that everybody has a lot of interest in, so that's wonderful. One question that I had was one about what are some of the weather conditions that might cause you to not put fire on the ground during a preparations for a prescribed burn?
So the key weather conditions that we look at when planning prescribed burns are wind, speed, and direction, relative humidity, which plays an important role in the combustibility of fuels on the landscape, dispersion, which is how well the smoke's going to move out of an area once it goes up in the air. And those are kind of the big ones that we look at. And if any of those parameters fall outside of the prescription for a given day, then that would scrub a burn for that day.
Okay, awesome. So the next question is one that comes in, and it talks about how are endangered species monitored during control burns?
Well, that's a really good question, and timing of our burns in areas where we have known populations of endangered species is probably the #1 way that we manage for those species. So a classic example is conducting prescribed burn operations in the vicinity of a bald eagle nest or a scrub jay nest. And a really important aspect of those types of operations is making sure that they're conducted when there is not active nesting occurring in those locations. So it's more than monitoring during the time of the burn. It's more of a preparing for the burn by doing monitoring beforehand in most situations. We also would have observers on site, though, in areas where we've got sensitive species like that, just paying attention to whether there are any impacts on the day of the burn.
Awesome. And there's a really good webinar we did previously that Maria Zondervan talked about some of the management with the red-cockaded woodpeckers, and so she did talk about the extra mowing around trees and that sort of thing as well.
Yes, yeah, I mean, the managing for threatened and endangered species uh, touch, is touched on by various aspects of our entire land management program.
The next question is one that is how can large multi-residential developments with scrub jay and wetland habitat conservation easements preserved by the DRI and SMMP by the district conditions get help with sustaining these HOA held common areas? These are especially in DeLand. So I'm not sure if you know about.
Followed that partially. I'm not sure I caught the full question. I'm trying to see if I can read it for myself.
Okay, so there may be some opportunity for our compliance folks that are going to be able to help with the land management plans that each one of these conservation easements will have within your HOAs. And we actually are offering a webinar about conservation easements, or a continuing education training on February 18th. And you can go to our page for CAMs, and I will email you directly the one that asked that question. The next question that we have was, along with prescribed burns, can managed herds of animals also be utilized to maintain that understory layer? Or is it possible to create a permit for a farmer to manage a herd of goats to manage undergrowth?
That's so a lot of the land that we manage is in some state of previous use for agricultural purposes, and oftentimes we continue to manage cattle grazing leases in a lot of those areas, and cattle grazing in grass areas has been shown to be a valuable tool for reducing shrub development in those areas. We have had talk of the possibility of other biological control for vegetation composition and structure, like and a lot of land managers in other parts of the country have used goats and sheep for controlling invasive species in areas. That's something that we haven't gone too far down the road on, but I think it's something that we're always willing to look at and consider all the alternatives that we have for getting as many different tools in our toolbox for land management. So that's something that I'd say we'd probably be interested in having a conversation about.
Wonderful. So there is a question that I think might be a little in jest, but I think it does also highlight some of the opportunities that you guys do with your outreach. So there was somebody that said, can we go out with you on the tank look-alike vehicle? I know that I saw Graham had it out, not for rides though, at the Wetlands Orlando Festival back pre-COVID. So I know it does get to go out with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes it to different festivals and outreach events occasionally for people. That's, I think, that attendee is probably referring to the March Master that we have a couple of, and although it looks like a fun toy, it's a very serious tool and piece of equipment that allows us to get to a lot of areas we wouldn't be able to with any other type of equipment.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this informative presentation. It is so helpful to have a great explanation of a topic like this, and we appreciate all of you for your attendance. So if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to myself. And Brent, again, thank you so much for this presentation.
Of course, it's a pleasure. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.
Have a great day. And just remember, this, along with all the other webinars, are recorded, and so you can watch them again and again. Have a great afternoon.